Right. The title of my talk is From Indie to AAA to Indie, but I actually thought I'd talk about desks, because they are very important things. After all, we spend half our life at our desks. And I wanted to make an analogy between the messiness of my desk and my own creative juices. And I've got all the desks that I've ever sat at and all the products. We'll quickly go through it. I'm making a point. Please bear with me. So this is my... here we have my first desk at Bullfrog. As you can see, no HR department there, and so my desk was hugely messy. This is my keyboard. As you can see, back then I was a smoker. I actually still am a smoker, but now it's electronic cigarettes. They're fantastic. And that desk and that keyboard created Populous and Powermonger, which got me into the industry, and it was incredible. After that, we moved office. We had a bit of a nicer office. My desk was still a chaotic mess, and that created Syndicate and Magic Carpet. Well, when I say created, I was the one that had the ideas, and the programmers did all the hard work, of course. And then my desk got a little bit neater. And I created Theme Park and Theme Hospital. And then I went back to work on Dungeon Keeper, and I did that from home, so my desk was messy again. And then I went and joined Lionhead Studios, and Black and White, again, very messy desk. Fable 1 and Fable 2, a bit neater, a little bit more of HR coming in. And then my final desk at Microsoft was this glorious thing. And the point I'm trying to make here is... Oh, let me just put my timer on, otherwise I'll just talk forever. Hang on, 1 second, timer. Here we go. I wonder how long I've talked for. There we are. The whole point I'm making is that why be an indie? Why not just stay in the lovely corporate world, where the key words of the corporate environment for me, when I was in that corporate world, I was safe. There was predictability to my life. There was contentment. There was security. And you know what? We all crave those things in our life, but for design and innovation, they are fucking death. They're the death knell. I need, and what indies are, and what they represent is danger and risk and fear and longing. Longing, that's why I went back to being an indie developer, because I longed for something. I longed to recreate the genre that my alcohol-addled brain stumbled on back in the late 80s, which was called Populous. And I felt when I was sitting in Microsoft, a wonderful, incredible, safe, comfortable, wonderfully driven company, I just had this overwhelming urge that I must invent. And that I must innovate. I must take this incredible world that we're in now. We're in this amazing world full of gamers that have just been created, stuffed full of technology which we have no idea what to do with. And that I just felt that me and this industry must innovate using all that stuff. That we together must create something that defines things like next generation. Now, I'm a great fan of... I've got the consoles. Jesus, I've got Xbox One, I've got PlayStation 4, I've got Wii U. I mean, underneath my TV, there's not really... You couldn't fit a slither of paper. It's just stuffed full of technology. But I don't know what those are yet. We haven't defined next generation, because they need us as creators to use this awesome technology to create something new and different. Because ultimately, there is a saying that nature abhors a vacuum. Am I allowed to swear here, by the way? Because I'm about to swear. I am allowed to swear. That camera at the back isn't being fed to preschool kids or something. Nature abhors a vacuum. And I would say, at the moment, we have one huge fucking vacuum. And let's talk about what we have. We have, thanks to some fantastic companies like Supercell, thanks to the brilliance of Notch and Mojang, we have millions of brand new gamers. Millions of gamers that we've created over the past few years. But the trouble is, we're not giving them anything but poor and unsophisticated titles. And a lot of the time I'm talking about this device, is that I think we are, partly because of monetization, we are squeezing those consumers dry. Now, I've got nothing against free-to-play. I mean, if you'd turned around to me just 5-10 years ago and said, you can have your games and they're free, I'd be down there and I'd be putting my money on that table, because I'd think, wow, that'd be fantastic, free. I just think that the greed at which we approach that monetization is overly harsh. In the UK, for example, the government is just starting to legislate against that, and that's because we haven't been tactful with that. We've been very abrupt. I look at today's technology. I look at the ability for us to connect people together, and I say, how are we in the games industry using that technology? And there's some examples, but I think we can do a better job. And lastly, how can we use analytics in a way, not just to squeeze more money out of people, but in a way to make games better? And, I'm sure, how many people here use analytics every day to make games better? Not a lot. In a few years' time, I bet you most of the people will stick out their hands. So, that's why I left Microsoft. I left to go into the uncomfortable, dangerous space of indie development to fund my own projects. And incidentally, my desk at the moment looks like this, which is fairly messy, and my keyboard now looks like this. Notice the electronic cigarette balanced precariously over the power off key. And I feel more creatively energized because of that mess and that chaos, because of that risk that I'm in at the moment. But risk doesn't mean that you don't have to have a plan. And let's just talk about our plan. Our ambition is to make a really great game. And how do you go about making a great game? Well, everybody who ever starts in a game thinks it's going to be great, but I think to make a great game, you have to have a plan. And our plan has 6 steps to it. And we had this idea of this plan when we first started out. Step 1 was to do with technology. If we're really going to use technology in an interesting and fascinating way for these new gamers that are coming in an understandable and approachable way, we need to experiment. And so we created this weird thing called Curiosity. Did anyone tap on Curiosity? Cool, that's more than I thought. I mean, I thought there would be about 50,000 of you. It turned out there were 5 million, just about 5 million downloads. Those 5 million downloads tapped 1.2 billion times on the screens. When the final layer of Curiosity was unveiled, it trended number 1, 2, and 3 on Twitter worldwide. And at its peak, Curiosity supported 400,000 people simultaneously tapping all at the same time. And what I learned from that, what I experimented with, was firstly, the core of what we're creating, the game that we're creating at the moment called Goddess, is the ability for us to connect everyone who plays it together. And we had to test that technology, and we had to test not only the technology of connecting those people together, but also the psychology of connecting those people together. Because if you really want to have a game which is played by millions of people simultaneously, and that's what we want, then you need to worry primarily not about the server back-end stuff, but primarily the psychology of it. Because you put 1 million people together, and about 5,000 of them will turn into nightmare bullies, which will end up dominating the entire culture of the thing you're presenting. And what we found is we took away the ability for people to communicate out of curiosity. We took that problem away. So that was our first, stage 1 of our plan, was to experiment. We did this experiment with about 5 of us. We did all the technology in-house, and we used Unity. Great fan of Unity. The next stage of our plan was to do with money and to do with community. Because there's one empirical truth on the journey to create a great game, and that is the more people that play your game and that feedback on the game, the more people you can look at through analytics, the more likely it is that you can refine that game in a way that will be delightful. And so we took the deep breath of going on to Kickstarter. How many people in this room have been involved in a Kickstarter project? Pretty terrifying. I mean, the thing about Kickstarter, the first 3 days, fantastic. You get your Excel spreadsheet out, you put your multiples in there. You can, you project out 30 days. You can say, well, I can retire because, I'm going to have more money than God. At the end of the 3 days, all the pleasures just disappear off the face of the earth. You feel like the least popular kid in the school playground, and you'll say just about anything to get back up again. And then that goes on, that doldrum in the middle goes on for about 20 days before it picks up at the end. However, we did manage to, we hit our target, we got 20% more than our target, and we had about 20,000 people that we could try our ideas out on, and we could get feedback from. And that's been a fantastic process. So we released to those 14,000 pledges, we released an alpha version of Goddess, the very first little bits of the game, very crude though it was, when was it, Jack? This is Jack. He's the designer at 22 Games. When did we release the alpha? Was it April?
To 100 people, 1,000 people?
1,000 people. April. Yeah, April last year. We took their feedback, refined the game a bit, and then that enabled us to get to the next stage in our plan, which was the brilliant early access on Steam. Has anyone done an early access game on Steam? Everyone should do it. Steam is a fantastic service. It's a brilliant way of contacting your consumers. We've got incredible feedback from that. There's been about 1 million installs from that, and that's been a brilliant way of seeing us forward. After that, we updated this version of the game, still very, very crude, on a weekly basis, before we realized that if we continued updating on a weekly basis, we would not end up with a game at the end of it. We'd just end up reacting to what's happened. So we stopped updating, went back to the drawing board on a few features, rewrote a few of the core systems, and then finally released a major update last week, actually. The fifth stage of the plan will take place in April of this year, where we will release the full version of the game, but in limited territories. Again, that is seeing how that happens, measuring our analytics, seeing whether or not the things that we think are going to work will actually work. We've got about 300 bugs before we launch in Denmark, Ireland, Sweden, Philippines, and New Zealand. God knows why it's those territories, I have no idea. And then finally, we will go for a full release, that is to the whole of the world, as soon as there's these metrics which can measure success. That is the number of people that are playing it every day, how far they're getting through the game, what features they're using, what features they're not using. We'll continue on the course until we hit those metrics, and then we'll go for a full release. The full release will be on PC, Mac, Linux, and iOS initially, and then we'll follow up with Android and, gosh, not other versions. So that's where we stand. This sort of craziness of approach could never be done unless you are an indie. The turmoil of that indie world is a fascinating thing. And what I thought I'd do is I'll just show you a video of what we're putting forward, and then Jack's going to give a little demo of the game itself. So let's have a look at this video first of all. Scottish audio man, go! It's my voice, I apologise.
What is Goddess? Imagine a world full of people that you have nurtured, full of people who worship you as a god. Imagine a land that's infinitely moldable, where your god powers can shape the living world with both beauty and destruction. Over time, your people will evolve into a thriving nation and may one day be advanced enough to conquer space. What is even more amazing, that your land and its followers are connected. The lands of all people who are playing Goddess are connected together. All of us playing together, tracing the evolution of an entire planet. Up to 50 million gods will rule up to 1 trillion followers on the planet the size of Jupiter.
Now that technology actually works. It works today. I know these numbers sound, it sounds like, it's another one of Peter Molyneux's stupid promises. And I wouldn't dare make that promise unless it's reality. The way it works is that our servers, our back ends, what they do when you start playing Goddess, which we'll see in a second, you start by sculpting a little world. And then after about playing for a few hours, you'll notice there's a little dock. We'll have a look at that dock in a minute. And there's a boat. And when you set sail in that boat, you will set sail to something called a hub world. And there will be 4 other players you'll meet for the first time in that hub world. Then what you can do is trade with those people. In that hub world, there is another dock, and that takes you to a super hub world, where you'll meet other people who've come from their hub worlds. And so it goes on in a hierarchical way, all the way up to the top. Every time you go up a hub world, there's a whole new game mechanic. So let's have a look at the game. Jack is going to demonstrate it on iPad. First public demonstration. Have you got sound?
I think it's down to our
Scottish sound guy. Sound on the iPad. Have you got the sound plugged in? No.
It's just... Oh, unless you need that.
Do you need this? You need this magic lead. Plug that in.
Oh, yes, do that.
There you go. Fixed. Sound. Go. I'll make the sounds. We'll sort it out. So firstly, what we've got here is, the first thing is that we've got is this beautiful world. Now, if we just scroll around that world, This is all using touch. Everything you see here is available on the PC as well, using mouse. And what we're trying to do is trying to make something so simple and so delightful and so playable that you forget you're playing a game. You're just playing in a world. So let's just look at one of the core things. There's a few core things in the game which is important. The first core thing is sculpting. I love the fact that people can create their own worlds, and Jack created this world. And let's see how he sculpts, first of all. We won't be able to see his finger. Should we do some sculpting? So he sculpts by pulling out. Now the word is delightful, it's delicious. Anything that you see that you can pull out with your finger, it just feels like your finger painting. It's more like moulding than anything else. And you can mould the most amazing, intricate shapes. These are our geese. Lovely. And a cuckoo. Now, we've moulded the land. This is not like any other game. We're not saying this is like an RTS. This is designed to be the recreation of a God game. So, how do you get people to do things? You don't tell them directly, you inspire them. You inspire these little people. So Jack's going to do that by tapping on one of the abodes. And out that little person comes. And if he feels, if he's up for it, he'll start doing whatever he wants to do, whatever he thinks is best in that situation. Now, I love that slightly detached gameplay, because I really want people to... Who's that? Could you see who's washing their face by the side of the sea there? That's Marie Brewer. I wonder who she is. These names will be groomed from your Twitter friends and from your Facebook friends. All of our God powers are powered by belief, and we can collect that belief by tapping on these belief balls. Incidentally, I love the fact that this is a musical world. So if you tap and then just drag your finger around, isn't that lovely? There's whole different tunes, and those tunes dictate what's happening in your world. This is a little town here, which I've created later on. Again, this is emergent gameplay. This is gameplay which you've discovered yourself. Using the same sort of simple metaphor, I can clear all those trees, for example. He's just tapping, holding, dragging round. It's really lovely just to clear all the trees. Now, as you play the game and as you get more powerful as a god, then people start believing in you more, and if they believe in you more, they give you more belief, and that belief will unlock god powers. So let's have a little look at some of my god powers now. I currently haven't got beautify, but I can if you just maybe do let's do a little rain of purity. I can rain. If we find farming crops, I can just go to the side of the world, and over here we've got a farming crop, and I can just water the farm. The farm, that'll make it more productive. That'll speed up the farming that's going on. Now, all of this stuff is just this wonderful playpen, but the cool thing is, all of this is tracing the history of your little people. So if we go and look at this thing called the timeline, and in this timeline, the game starts out at 5,000 BCE, and what we're doing is tracing the evolution of what mankind is, and then comparing it to what your world is like. So as you go through the times, you're through the primitive age, you're unlocking these cards and these new abilities, and some of these new abilities are completely new pieces of gameplay. Some of these things are resources, like the ability to mold animal furs or mud bricks. And some of them are introducing whole new game mechanics like farming and mining, and all of that stuff is done through this one timeline. And you can compare your timeline with any of your friends' timelines. So, for example, I can, if you just try and unlock one of those god powers, have you got the stickers to do that? You don't. Well, maybe we shouldn't do that, because we've only got 2 minutes, 12 seconds left. Let's just show you one of the things you can unlock, rather than him unlocking it now. If you go back and show this is one of the little mini games in there. There's a dock over the side here. If you just tap on that dock, this is called a Voyager Discovery, where you can send, say, 50 of your little followers out to explore the outside world. And this is how they meet other people. But on their journey to the outside world, they're going to have to overcome lots of different obstacles. For example, if we just sail, they'll get off, and now I have to help them through this. I have to get them from their ship to this little temple. This is inspired by, did anyone remember a game called Lemmings? This is inspired by Lemmings. If you just set them off. There they go. Now, Jack is going to, yes, you see, you've already played this, haven't you? He's now blocked the route because we don't want them to go past that savage, but they're now blocked completely, so if we open them up, they'll all go and they'll reach their destination. Now, I've almost run out of time. There's someone holding a sign up saying I have run out of time. If anyone wants to see more of Goddess, we're at the Hotel Intercontinental, room 2903. You're welcome to come by at any time and see. I will sleep from about 12 o'clock till about 3 o'clock, but any time other than that, please, come by. I'll just leave you with this one thought. Being indie is more than just being a small company. Being indie should be about taking risks. It should be about embracing the things that the larger corporations can't possibly attempt, which is an insane approach to different types. That's the arm. Insane approach to different types of genres. I love being indie again. Thank you so much for listening to me. I wish I had more time.